On February 6, 2025, President Donald Trump signed an executive order. This order placed sanctions on the International Criminal Court, or ICC. The move was highly controversial. It immediately drew criticism from human rights groups and some world leaders. The Trump administration had long been critical of the ICC. It viewed the court as an infringement on U.S. sovereignty. The decision marks a new low point in the relationship between the U.S. and the ICC. It remains to be seen what the long-term consequences of this decision will be. The sanctions are widely seen as a response to the ICC's ongoing investigations involving Israel. The timing of the executive order is particularly noteworthy. It coincided with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to Washington. Netanyahu met with Trump at the White House. He also spoke with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. The ICC had recently issued an arrest warrant for Netanyahu. The warrant alleges Netanyahu's involvement in war crimes. These crimes are connected to Israel's military response in Gaza. In October 2023, Hamas attacked Israel. Israel retaliated. The conflict resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians. Many of the dead were children. The Trump administration vehemently defended Netanyahu. It rejected the ICC's arrest warrant. The administration labeled the warrant as baseless and politically motivated. Trump called the ICC a kangaroo court. He accused it of being biased against Israel and the United States. The timing of the sanctions, just as Netanyahu arrived in Washington, fueled speculation. Many observers believe the move was intended as a show of support for the Israeli Prime Minister. They suggest Trump was trying to shield Netanyahu from prosecution. This perception of political interference further damaged the ICC's reputation in the eyes of some. The sanctions themselves are far-reaching. They target ICC officials, employees, and even their families. The executive order authorizes the U.S. government to block the assets of these individuals. It also allows the U.S. to deny them entry into the country. The sanctions sent shockwaves through the international community. Human rights groups condemned the move. They argued the sanctions would hinder the ICC's ability to function effectively. They also expressed concern about the chilling effect the sanctions could have on international justice efforts more broadly. The sanctions could have significant practical implications for targeted individuals. ICC officials could find themselves unable to travel freely. They may face difficulty accessing their finances. These disruptions could hamper their ability to carry out their duties. The sanctions also raise concerns about the safety and well-being of ICC staff, particularly those working in volatile regions. The sanctions represent a significant escalation in the Trump administration's efforts to undermine international institutions. They have been met with a mixture of condemnation and defiance from the international community. The long-term consequences of these sanctions for the ICC and the pursuit of international justice remain to be seen. Section 4, A History of Discord, the U.S. and the ICC. The U.S. has a long and complicated history with the ICC. The United States participated in the negotiations that led to the Rome Statute, the treaty that established the ICC. However, the U.S. ultimately decided not to join the court. The U.S. has long harbored concerns about the ICC's potential to infringe on U.S. sovereignty. There are worries about politically motivated prosecutions of American citizens, particularly U.S. military personnel. The U.S. government has also expressed concerns about the ICC's lack of accountability and transparency. In 2002, the U.S. Congress passed the American Protections Act. This law, often referred to as the Hague Invasion Act, authorizes the U.S. president to use all means necessary and appropriate to bring about the release of any U.S. or allied personnel detained by the ICC. The act underscores the deep mistrust between the U.S. and the court. The Trump administration's decision to impose sanctions on the ICC is the latest chapter in this contentious relationship. It reflects a broader trend of U.S. disengagement from multilateral institutions under the Trump administration. The sanctions have further strained the relationship between the U.S. and many of its allies who strongly support the ICC. Section 5, Global Reactions, a spectrum of support and condemnation. The reaction to Trump's sanctions has been sharply divided. Human rights groups have condemned the move. They argue it undermines the ICC's crucial work. Some U.S. lawmakers have applauded the move. They argue the ICC is biased against Israel and the U.S. The sanctions have sparked a debate about the future of international justice. Critics argue that the Trump administration's actions undermine the rules-based international order. They fear this could lead to a more dangerous and unstable world.